CP3. Shawty, she calling me MBB. I be on time, it's something you ain't never seen before. They call me the Dama, really want my whole team to score. Damn, yeah, too icy, yeah, too clean, yeah, my zone, yeah, 2-3, yeah, got shooters that hit from deep, bust like Giannis, yeah, too mean. Bright lights like we at the garden, on P, don't get me started. Whole team walk through me to party. If I can't make the play, I'ma lob it. If you jump, that's right on your head. Had to put him to sleep, go to bed. I'm a star, drop 50 and left. From the logo, like I'm Steph. Put it up, knock him down every time. Going hard like my life on the line. Catch me on the course, I would've dime. Never losing, I put it on mine. Had to get out my shell, I've been laying low. They get red when it comes to the playoffs. The fight with me, no one's a KO.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the Pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Hello, all. My name's Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live. Hope everybody had a good week. Sorry for the delay for those that listen and care. Happy to be back on with you. Big basketball game tonight in La Casa de los Lobos. Busy show today. And then I'll bring on my co-host as usual, the usual suspect, one of the usual suspects. Former UNM basketball player, 2008 to 2012, Philip McDonald will be joining us. Very excited to talk to him. And then BJ Rains from Bronco Nation News at 4:45. Looking forward to that conversation too. Wonder if the main question tonight is Snake going to be there or the UNM baseball team for Leon Rice? I want to thank those that make this show possible. Dulce River Bakery and Coffee, Affordable Solar, Turquoise Desert Tap Room, Hydro Bar, Tim Baca Jr., Tim Baca Sr., Affordable Service Heating, Plumbing, and Air Conditioning for your HVAC needs in Albuquerque and Rio Rancho. Affordable Service has been in business in Albuquerque since 1986, and it is still locally owned. During that time, they've served more than 40,000 customers, providing complete residential and light commercial HVAC services, including heating, cooling, electrical, and plumbing. Affordable Service takes pride in its staff and its commitment to the Rio Rancho area. We will, oh boy. I gotta delete these. Delete that overlay. There we go. Mess that up. Fantastic. Way to start. If it's not one thing, it's another. Hope everybody is well. Hope you're amped for the game tonight. Join the conversation on X. I don't know. We're not on TikTok. YouTube. Lost my train of thought there. I didn't want to start with UNM tonight. I will get our thoughts on the San Jose State game. I fell asleep halfway through the game. And I thought that UNM had a 13-point lead. They didn't. I guess they blew that. I wanted to start here because of somebody that, and I'm not going to pretend I'm a Brewers fan. I am starting here because of one Bob Uecker, or if you know him from the movie Major League, Harry Doyle. I watched the movie Major League, what came out like 1989. I was born in the year of our Lord, 87. I watched that show. I watched that movie when I was younger, not knowing any of the adult jokes. And then as I got older and discovered who Bob Uecker was, I was incredibly, it's not so often that you get like a celebrity that hits you where they pass away, especially at the age of 90. Other than Mr. Baseball himself, Bob Uecker. And I have to do it before we go on because of what his little role in both Major League movies. Now, Major League is not as good as Major League 2. Major League 2 has its moments. And Ed, I'll get to you in a second, but I have to do this before I move on, just because it's not probably the most quotable part, but it's definitely one of the best, just a bit outside.
Vaughn, a juvenile delinquent in the offseason in his Major League debut.
Gonna light your ass up, meat.
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed. Ball 4. Ball 8. Low, and Vaughn has walked the bases loaded on 12 straight pitches. Boy, how can these guys lay off pitches that close?
How can you lay off pitches that close? All right, I want to go to my one of the usual suspects, a Lobo fan since 1970 and the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs, Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing? I apologize to everybody wanting to talk UNM. I don't care. I love that movie. I love his character in those two movies. Ed, how you doing?
You know what? I don't think you need to apologize. He made a career out of being Mr. Irrelevant, all of 14 major league home runs and batted 200. But if you look at that cast in that Wild Thing movie, Charlie Sheen, Wesley Snipes, Tom Berenger, Bob Uecker, and then the forgotten Corbin Burnson, who used to be in L.A. Law many years ago. So I remember watching that movie and Wild Thing, Charlie Sheen and Uecker made a career again out of being the guy, hey, great seats, buddy, way up there. And, the Miller Lite commercials. So iconic, and he didn't get to see the Brewers win a World Series. And Kristen Yelich lamented that in an article that I read today. So, the guy was hilarious. Played Mr. Belvedere. I'd forgotten about that when I read about that this morning. So it was on Johnny Carson, called him Mr. Baseball. And so that stuck. So I think it's fitting. He was he's a character, quite a character, and made a career out of being Mr. Irrelevant. He embraced it. A lot of people don't want to embrace that, but look what kind of career he had. So nice, long life, 90 years old. So, rest in peace, Bob Uecker.
Still on mute there. The Brewers made the NLCS in 2011 and 2018. What you think about the Prince Fielder year, Ryan Braun, CC Sabathia? They lost to the Cardinals, who went on to win that epic World Series in 2011. I'm not trying to bore. There's the scene when they introduce him in Harry Doyle as in Major League, where he's introducing this season of Indians baseball, and he pours the Jack Daniels into his cup and he flicks his ear. I heard somebody talking about that, and when they were doing that, I forgot who it was, and I went back and watched it, and just his introduction. And I don't know, that I love that movie for many different reasons. When Willie Mays Hayes asks Ricky Vaughn, Wesley Snipes asks Ricky Vaughn, what the hell league you've been playing in? And he goes, California Penal. That movie, and I know it's an 80s movie, is up there as one of the most quotable movies in my life, in my personal life. And Jacob Neff and I were doing it. There's a part in Major League right before they go to Ricky Vaughn, and Harry Doyle or Bob Uecker goes, and you can close the book on Kellner, and he looks at his co-host and he covers his mic and he goes, thank God. And I'm looking for that on my soundboard because here it is.
Oh, thank God.
Here it is.
Oh, thank God.
I don't know. It's just all subtle and casual. And I think that's why I love it in the comedy. And I don't know. People will say there are better baseball movies for my money, and I will probably piss a lot of people off. I do like Bull Durham. I'm not a Kevin Costner guy. I think Field of Dreams sounds like Dances with Wolves when he's talking and he's like, well, my father owned a farm in Iowa, and I hate it. I like Bull Durham. I like Bull Durham. I like Major League. I'm not saying Major League 2 is a masterpiece. He's got some lines. Bob Uecker's got some lines in Major League 2. I just played it for you before we went live, Ed, when Rick Vaughn gives up a home run and he just goes, ah, shit, on the radio. And of course, when you go back to the first movie, and he's looking middle of the movie and he's going, we got one goddamn hit. And his co-host, I think Lonnie or whatever, he goes, you can't say goddamn on the radio. And he goes, don't worry, nobody's listening anyway. I loved it. I'm really sad he's passed again. It's not that often in my life a celebrity hits me. Even somebody in the sporting world. I can think of 2 baseball stars, Tony Gwynn and now Bob Uecker. I'm a little heavy on the heart, just because what that movie meant to me and growing up watching it with my dad. Ed, I'm sorry for that.
One quick comment. All those movies you mentioned were good, but to me, you got to throw The Natural in there. That Wonder Boy, the Bat, Wilford Brumley, the crotchety old manager. I'm never going to play him. He says, I don't care. He's an old man. I'm never going to play him. And Hobbs, get over here. Hobbs, get the. So that movie there, I've seen it 20 times. I'll see it 21, 30 times more. That was, to me, a great baseball movie. It really was.
I'm starting to show my age, and then I'm showing my age around you, but I love Rookie of the Year, but there is also another movie that is, I think, a little bit under the radar baseball-wise, and it's Little Big League. And there was a guy who was a baseball player, then he became an actor. He ended up on the Gilmore Girls. I don't know his name. But Little Big League, he's the grandson of the owner of the Minnesota Twins, and he's like this 12-year-old who's a baseball guru. And his grandfather dies in the middle of the season and gives, he inherits the team and he promotes himself to manager, and the players kind of all rally around him. I think that's actually like an unsung baseball movie. I love The Natural. I've rewatched Mr. 3000. I do love that movie. I do love Bernie Mac. I'd only seen it once. That's up there for me. I will say this though, for my money and quotable and characters, and you can argue with me all day, it's fine. I'm not going to argue back. Major League is up there, and I love Crash Davis. And then, oh man, Tim Robbins, Eddie Calvin Nuke. That's it. Couldn't think of his name. Hold on. Before we get to Phil McDonald, I always forget his name. Yeah, I know it's Nuke, but his full name.
Yeah, that one.
Calvin LaLoosh, Nuke LaLoosh. That's it. I couldn't think of it. I haven't seen Bull Durham in a couple of years, but Major League for what it's worth. It's got the best lines for me. I can quote it like The Simpsons or Ghostbusters. I love at the end when that first baseman asks Willie Mays Hayes and Wesley Snipes, where you think you're going, and he goes about 90 feet. I don't know. I just love that cocky and arrogant. The Sandlot is good. Thanks, John. Ed, very quickly before we get to Phil McDonald, we're going to talk about Phil McDonald's career. I ran into him in New York. I had the pleasure of covering him during those Steve Alford days at the Daily Lobo. What a great name for a newspaper. I just wanted your thoughts. I'm going to be very blunt with my audience today. I fell asleep during that game. I woke up and I saw it was a 1-point loss. And then I looked at our group text and it was like, can anybody block out? I just wanted your thoughts on the game very quickly on Tuesday night. And what are you looking forward to tonight?
Eric and Rick did a great job in breaking it down on the podcast that they did last night. And
go check out our podcast.
Yeah, they did a great job. They and Rick was there. So Rick talked about the atmosphere. What he was, I was so glad he got the chance to do that. That was his first chance to, sit there as a member of the media. So I was real glad for him to do that. I have to say this though, that at first I thought it was a pretty bad loss, but then Rick said he talked to Rocco Miller, who was there, and Rocco Miller said, "Hey, it's not as bad as you think." That gave me hope. And then Utah State lost to UNLV. That helps. So you're bound to happen. Now, look, it's not a good loss. I'm not here celebrating, saying great. It wasn't a good game for New Mexico. They didn't play well. But San Jose State had – somebody mentioned this too. I think it might have been Eric. They had lost some real close games. They were bound to win one. They've got a talented group. Terrell Davis hit that shot there that he hit. I mean, he's fading away. He banks it in. That's one of those shots. The big man, it's one of those shots. What are you going to say? And the other one falling down, from 3-point land, they made it. And then the big man was Nelly Jr. Joseph got in foul trouble. And the big man for San Jose State took Ali Atiki to school. He's not built to stop the post game and push and get over and 3-quarter front and deny position. He doesn't have the girth to do that. So I thought San Jose State took advantage of that matchup. And then, Coach Pitino said, if you're going to be 3 of 15 from 3-point land, which New Mexico was, you've got to be a better defensively, and they weren't. I got to say he was always even keeled. I watched the press conference or question and answer with Jeff Grammer, and he never gets too emotional. He just said, this is what we didn't do. Borovichinen and Washington and Amzil did not shoot well. Amzil made a big 3. I thought that might have been it. When they put New Mexico up 69-66, I said, hey, that's a little cushion there. New Mexico should be able to ride it out. And give San Jose State credit. You mentioned about blocking out the last rebound. We had a couple guys standing around, and you got to get the rebound. And as good as they were on offensive rebounding last week at the pit against San Diego State, they were not very good. Offense, San Jose State got a lot of offensive rebounds, and the most important one to seal the game away. So, but I got to say though, a couple of people talked me off the cliff because I thought it was, it's not a good loss, but apparently it's not as bad as I thought it was. They're still in first place in the Mountain West. This is a big game tonight. You asked me about tonight, and Boise State is 5-2. They're coming off a big win against Wyoming after a very tough loss against Utah State, one that they probably let get away. But tonight's a big game. Boise State 5-2, New Mexico 6-1 in Mountain West, and that would have given New Mexico a 2-game lead with a 7-0, 7 over Boise State. So still kind of a tough loss, but not the season ending or the loss that I thought might keep them out of the tournament. Although Tom Moster did say that he ran the play back and he said this is the possession that might keep New Mexico out of the NCAA tournament. But I think looking back and settling down after Utah State losing to UNLV, that's a bad loss for them too. So New Mexico is still very much in it. A pit game tonight, and this is a game against Boise State, as I mentioned. They had a big game against Wyoming on Tuesday. 4 Broncos in double figures. New Mexico absolutely has to protect home court tonight.
I find it very fascinating, and I don't know the details of this, and then everybody can criticize me for not being prepared. I don't know. NMSU, since beating UNM, has only lost to Texas, and I know I mentioned this on our last show. Granted, it's Southern Utah, Northern New Mexico, University of the Southwest, Sam Houston, Louisiana Tech, UTEP, FIU. I had the FIU game on last night while I was watching the Devils play. They have won 8 of 9, and they have jumped, I think, 100 points in KenPom and 100 points in the net. So that loss, as we inch closer, as I said, and you can put me on freezing cold takes, was a I guess the Dodgers signed Sasaki. Okay. Lost my train of thought with that news. It makes me doesn't want to watch it for the first time. I really don't want to watch baseball. Yeah, I said that was a at-large bid killer back, I don't know, whenever it happened last month.
To the Aggies, right?
Yeah, to the Aggies. Less and less now. You cannot slip up because you still have to go to Boise. You still have to go to San Diego. You still have to go to Utah State. You still have to go to Vegas. This to me, this road with that loss on Tuesday night in a game you had a 13-point lead, by the way. They gave them a hard time back in the pit, so maybe it's just a matchup. But I can't. They cannot slip up again. And I think you need to go out and get some key wins on the road, and you need to figure out, maybe don't play 4 games in 4 days like you did last year. but I don't know if to hear Rocco Miller say it's not an end all be all, but I saw what Tom, Moser put on Twitter, and I thought that was fascinating. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Philip McDonald, former UNM men's basketball player. This is the Pit Press Live. Ed Nunez, I'm Ryan Tamori.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
All right, welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. I'm joined by the voice of Western New Mexico and a Lobo fan since 1970, Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, we've tried to have this guy on before, and then I've gotten busy, and I really didn't want to interview a former basketball player without you. So our next guest played for UNM from 2008 to 2012 under everybody's favorite head coach on the show, Steve Alford. He averaged 8.5 points per game in his career, shooting 42% from the field. In 2010, 2011, he averaged 28 minutes a game with nearly 11 points and 4 rebounds a game. The name probably rings a bell with everybody here. His name's Phil McDonald. Phil, thank you for joining the show. I'm sorry it took so long to get you on.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
I will start here. You averaged 18.5 points a game out of Cypress Springs High School and were recruited by Oregon, Kansas, Connecticut, and Oklahoma. What made UNM the best fit for you, and what was the recruiting approach by Steve Alford?
Man, I'm glad you asked me. Just digging up some of those years, and man, it was fantastic years of my life. I tell you. But during those times, right, out of high school, it wasn't really like this glamorous career that I had, even though I was highly recruited at one point. Freshman year in high school, I had high expectations of making the varsity basketball team. I tried out, and coach was like, "Nope, that ain't gonna work out. You need to go back down to the freshman team." So But that was all right though, because I did work my way up, and I was able to position myself to get in the situation that I was in, where I was able to get recruited by all these different schools. So a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication came to that. But I'm very grateful that I went through that experience. When I was getting recruited out of my high school, that journey was very, let's just say, technology wasn't what it is today. A lot of letters, a ton of letters. It was a lot of the phone calls. During those times, I had a flip phone, so texting back and forth was very difficult. You'll get a one-word answer out of me, yes or no. Because I didn't have time to have that conversation. So during those times I was getting recruited, yes, I was getting recruited by, all those schools that you mentioned. And New Mexico always been on my mind, believe it or not. I watched a little show from CBS that showed the pit, that showed snakes. So I was kind of familiar with that. And my AAU basketball club coach at the time was Chris Walker. Happened to take a position there. And a lot of my guys on that AAU club was already coming and committed to New Mexico. So when they approached me, of course, I was intrigued already because I knew he went there, but I thought I was going to go to Kansas University, to tell you the truth. I was pretty much set on that. And then took visits here, talked to the guys, and I felt like I was at home. I knew right away that I was going to be comfortable. I knew we were going to be good because of the players that I played with. I just knew we were going to make some noise. So Steve Alford really did a great job recruiting me. And he came to my house and pretty much, continued to talk to me. All the coaching staff talked to me. Home visits was a thing that he used to do. He probably does it still, but that's how he was able to land me.
Seawalk's a name I hadn't heard in a while, and then he was on CBS. That's awesome. You immediately had yeah, that's a great name. You immediately had an impact as a freshman and had teammates such as Daniel Ferris. And Ed wrote this question, and it's true. I feel bad that I always forget about him. And he's somebody we need to hunt down for the show. Tony Danridge, I don't know, Dunkmaster Flex or whatever you want to call him. I don't know if you guys had a nickname. That was the first thing that popped in my head. Chad Topper, what did you learn from them as a freshman? And that was a good team that year.
Oh man, I learned a lot from those guys. During those times, we got to pay. Freshmen have to pay their dues. They really kind of beat me up during practice. I wasn't used to the physicality of the game at the time, the speed of the game, and the way they the preparation. Chad Topper, Tony Dandridge, Daniel Ferris. I mean, those guys were dialed in. We actually took home notebooks of players who were playing, and we will test each other, quiz each other. Coach would quiz us. So the preparation aspect of it is what I mainly learned from them, and that's something that you have to do at that level.
I'm going to throw it over to my co-host Ed Nunez. Hey, Ed, we're all feeling old with the flip phone.
yeah. Again, I'm way older than both you guys, but yeah. Phil, as a freshman, you scored in double digits 11 times. As we mentioned, you had an immediate impact. What do you remember about that season?
Oh man. Oh, that season was incredible. Okay, so that was before the renovation, right? So we were packing remind me, like 18,000 fans, probably a little bit more than that. And then so big time games were extremely loud. It was to a point where I think part of my hearing is gone because of that. We played against Utah, we played against really tough opponents, and the buzz was just cracking and at the pit all the time. So mainly just the environment. Also remember those times where I remember those times that we rushed the court off the big time game. And I also remember the disappointment of not making it to the NCAA tournament. I can't let that go. I felt like we got robbed because our team was set up. We were very deep that year. We could have hit you in multiple ways from the post, outside shooting. We had Darius Gary just he was a great distributor of the basketball during those times, and he wasn't afraid to run you over if he needed to. That's how we played. We were physical and a great 3-point shooting team.
That was a tough team, and it's hard to believe, but there was a time when the mezzanine was still there, and people forget that. As a sophomore, you were 6th in the Mountain West in 3-point shooting. You had 27 points against the Aggies in the 97-87 win, and were an all Mountain West Conference honorable mention. Unfortunately, that 30-5 season, which nobody's won 30 games, not Bob King, Ellenberger, Richie McKay, none of them, that ended in the second round with an NCAA loss to Washington. What do you remember about that season?
Oh, that season, man, another great season. We lost a bunch of seniors the previous season, so there was a lot of question marks of, how we're gonna look. We lost. That's when we lost Daniel Ferris. So we lost our post president because Daniel Ferris, he was killing it his senior year. So we lost that scoring production. We lost Tony Dandridge, was an experienced guy that can leap through the gym, like you guys said. We just lost a lot of key parts of the team. So a lot of unknowns. But I remember just going out there, and I remember the first game, I was like, man, we're clicking right away. We look very dangerous. Wasn't really super deep at that time, but we were just a tough ball club because we had Darrington Hobson. Darrington Hobson was a great ball distributor. He was a big physical guard as well, but he prided on passing the basketball really well. And we had shooters set up all day long, and it made my life easy. All I got to do is spot up and shoot, sign me up, right? So that year, great year. And, closing out that year, we're so used to playing against, tough teams, tough environments, the pit, right? Nearly sold out every game. You go to NCAA tournament, a lot of people don't know, it's hard for, especially in particular, our fans to travel at the last minute notice. So those games ain't typically not packed. So you got to kind of create your own buzz, your own energy, just like you did in the regular season, because that you no longer have that type of atmosphere. It's more of a, hey, there's people there. You can kind of feel the energy, but still, it's not a sold-out Pitt crowd. It's not a sold-out San Diego State crowd. It's not a sold-out UNLV crowd. So that's always tough. And just losing to Washington during that last game was really gut-wrenching. We were really beat up during that time. We were low on we weren't super deep. So that was a difficult game, and I knew it was going to be a difficult challenge for us to win that game, just the amount of bodies that we were playing throughout the year. So it was a tough loss, tough pill to swallow. But that's one of those games that I wish I had back.
During your junior season, you had an elbow injury, but scored 27 points in a big win against third-ranked BYU. I think you got him here in Provo. What do you remember about that game?
Oh man! So I believe that game was in Provo. It was a big time game. I believe we needed that game to win the Mountain West regular season. So that game was huge. It was huge. We needed that win. I came in, my freshman year, sophomore year, I struggled in Provo at BYU. That was just a hard place to play. Didn't know much about BYU at the time. Didn't really know how to prepare for an environment of that caliber at BYU. Jimmy Jimmy Fredette during those times, so he was a tough guy to guard. We that game in particular, I knew what to expect. I knew how to handle it. I felt comfortable, and it was one of those games that, I could care less what happened on the court. I was going to give it my all, and I ended up having a successful 27-point game during that time. So definitely one of the fondest memories that I had in my career. But that was probably one of the toughest times that year, dealing with that elbow injury, not be able to shoot a basketball like I normally would, and have to adjust my game based off of my injury.
Your senior season, you came off the bench to back up Tony Snell. What kind of adjustment was that for you, since you had started all your seasons?
Yeah, a huge adjustment, right? Going in your senior year, you're expecting to start. Seniors are expecting to make a huge impact. Before even the preseason started, I got hurt, right? I suffered another injury. That was an ankle injury, and it was actually a pretty good, significant ankle injury where my whole entire leg was swollen. I was limping around campus. But during those times, redshirting, most people didn't look to redshirt. It just usually, it was kind of like almost a knock on your career that you were a redshirt. So, and I'm used to playing hurt. That's just from where I'm from, how I grew up, those values that everyone plays hurt. Well, suffered that injury. So I'm pretty much all preseason. I came back, and Tony Snell, he had some great games during my absence. He really stepped it up. He really turned the page. So I had to kind of switch my role as well. Let's try to be more of a leader. Let's do whatever it takes to win. And at that point in my career, I try not to look at the stats as much. I stopped caring about that, and I wanted to win, and I wanted to make an impact as much I can.
I love that. I love that answer, man. I appreciate that. Ed, I'll throw it back over to you.
Yeah, Phil, that's a true pro, man. Doing what's what it needs, right? Some guys would pout, and you just did what you needed to do, and that's a great teammate right there. Phil, you had some outstanding teammates while you were here. You mentioned a bunch of them: Darrington Hobson, Roman Martinez, Doris Gary, Alex Kirk, Tony Dandridge, Daniel Ferris, Chad Topper. What was it like to play alongside such great teammates?
Oh, man. It makes your life easier. I'll tell you that much. It makes when guys are really contributing to the basketball team, and when they really just holding their on, it elevates your play. It kind of elevates you to another level where it's like, hey, these guys are putting in the work. So in return, you got to put in the work as well. Everybody's different. Their personalities are different. Their style and way to play the game is different, but they're all unique in their own way. And we all wanted to win. So that was the main thing, is that those guys that I play with, we only had one goal in my mind, is to win. We wanted to win. We wanted to win it all. And those guys were, those guys were physical. They took the game very serious. They knew what it took to get there and play at the highest level. So it was definitely an honor to play with those guys, and I'm forever grateful, because we had great times, and our relationship now outside of basketball is great. When we see each other, we show each other love all day.
Real quick, Phil, that's a great answer there too. But I look back on the years that you were here with Coach Alford, and you won 20 games every single time here. You mentioned the rosters they put together, guards, like Doris Gary. So the bigs, the wings, he put together unbelievable teams here. And I think sometimes, we forget that because of the way he left. I know I was mad at him for a while. I was. I wasn't mad about UCLA just kind of mad about him, the person. But I think he's kind of, understood that there's some regrets there. But what kind of coach was Steve Alford?
Oh man, Steve Alford is a wizard when it comes to coaching. So, Steve Alford is a guy that's, I would say, is very organized. No nonsense type of guy. Almost have, you can tell that he has a little bit of Bobby Knight in him. He's kind of his mannerisms, how he handles situations. Bobby Knight, when we met Bobby Knight, yeah, he's a tough guy, but Bobby Knight's also a guy that you can talk to and you can lean on. And Steve Alford kind of made that clear to us right away. It's like, hey, we're going to be, he didn't really physically verbal this, but I knew right away since day one in practice that this guy is a tough coach. Like, he expects you to do what he says for the most part, and he expects you to give it your all, no matter what, and he will call you out. So Alford, great guy, great roster construction. He knows what type of players he like. He knows the game ins and outs, especially at the college basketball level. He knows what he likes. And that's what makes great coaches, that they can look at players and say, hey, I want you here at New Mexico, and we're going to win this way, because you're not going to have a Zion Williamson or a Cooper Flagg or even somebody LeBron James caliber just walking through your door. You got to be creative in your coaching style, and that's how he was. Moving around the basketball was very key with our success during those years.
Just listen, Duke players there. I love it. How turning tides to appreciate reliving your career there, high school and UNM days, Phil. We're joined by Philip McDonald, UNM men's basketball player, 2008 to 2012. I see you at a lot of games, and then I ran into you at the alumni event before the St. John's game, and I probably awkwardly bugged you right in front of the bathroom, and I was like, hey, this is who I am. And then I name dropped Mike Mares, as I always do. But you watch a lot of basketball, and we talked earlier today, and you said you were rewatching San Jose State. So here's my question. How does UNM respond tonight after that San Jose State loss?
I think it's pretty I think UNM problem is pretty simple. They just need to make free throws, right? Everybody knows that we're not a well free throw shooting team. And as long as we knock down some 3-point shots, we're going to be in a great situation. Now, we're great. We can drive. Everyone in the country knows that. I can tell by the defense that they're running against us. They're really holding on to Donovan Dent. So we need those X guys, those X factor guys to make key contribution to the game. Like Alpahan, like Amziel. We need those guys to step up and especially knock down some shots. CJ Nolan, Drew Washington, those guys. I think if we have one of those guys really contribute to the game and play highly effective basketball and efficient basketball, that's going to open up your driving lanes with Donovan Dent. That's going to open up Nelly to be ultra aggressive when we need him to. But our key contributors need X factors to come in there and really make an impact in the game. And just knock down free throws. You knock down some couple 3-points. You're in a good situation. We're a great defensive team. We can guard anybody. We don't have any problems guarding anybody laterally. We rebound really well with the best of them. So that's what I appreciate with them. We just need to clean those little things up, and then we'll be in good shape.
Phil, I appreciate that, and we're trying to get you to help us out a little bit more, especially with Rick and Eric on the podcast. Before I let you go, what are you doing these days, and talk about your AAU basketball coaching career?
Yeah, so these days I'm a working man. I work for the labs here in town. Been with them for about 2 years. And also outside of work, I coach D1. It's called D1. It's an AAU squad here in town. 8th graders and 7th graders right now. And I've been coaching them for about 4 years. So I am giving back to the community, especially with my basketball knowledge, as much as possible. I love kids, especially kids who come in with a great attitude and with a great respect of the game. And then I'll coach you. I like kids like that.
Phil, it was a pleasure having you on. Phil McDonald, UNM men's basketball player, 2008 to 2012. Phil, we're going to bug you more to come on. Like I said, maybe you can bug Rick and Eric, but thank you. I know I'm apologizing to you again, actually on air. I'm sorry it took so long to get you on the show. Everything that went over the holidays. You've been super cool, man. Thank you so much again. And I'll see you at the game tonight.
Yes. Go Lobo, and no problem, man. Just call me anytime. Let me know.
Appreciate it. All right. That's Phil McDonald, former UNM basketball player. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will be back with BJ Rains from Bronco Nation News to preview this game tonight. My name's Ryan Tamori. Ed Nunez. This is the Pit Press Live.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. We're going to keep things moving along now, just for time constraints, and I'm super happy to have our next guest on. He is a dad to Naismith and Nelson, husband to Karen, Bronco State beat writer. He's a 4-time NMSA Idaho Sports Writer of the Year, show host, and publisher on Bronco Nation News or BNN. His name is BJ Rains. I'm sorry I stole your Twitter bio there, BJ, but how you doing? How was your trip to Albuquerque?
It's doing great. Just got checked into the hotel and having a Red Bull and doing all the work and ready for the game tonight. So yeah, good to be here and always enjoy coming to Albuquerque. And thanks for having me on.
Of course, Omar Stanley. We're talking about the game tonight. Omar Stanley has been coming off the bench recently for the Boise State Broncos. What has his impact been like coming off the bench, not being a starter?
Yeah, it's just been weird. He hasn't really clicked yet. He just hasn't looked like the player that they saw for most of last year. I mean, he's still averaging 9.6 rebounds a game, but certainly just hasn't been the player that they thought he would last year. And I think he's obviously actually a key player in tonight's game, just from a perspective of kind of the physicality and the rebounding and what it takes to win on the road, and especially against New Mexico. I think Omar Stanley, whether they decide to start him, whether he comes off the bench again, I think he is could be a key factor in this game. If he's able to kind of find some of his form from last season and get back to being an all Mountain West type player, I think he could be a key factor tonight.
In previous years, Boise State has had the size advantage in the backcourt with the addition to the Lobo lineup of Philip McDonald. How does that change things for the Broncos tonight?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a Cardenas coming in the point guard spot from San Jose State has been a huge addition for them. I mean, he's one of the best point guards in the league, and averaging double figures and averaging, I think, close to 7 assists a game. And in the last 3 games, his assist to turnover ratio is like 24-3 or something crazy. And that includes, games against San Diego State and Utah State. So I think Cardenas has been huge. But they've got some wing players, whether it's an Andrew Meadow at 6'7", he could be on him tonight, or whether it's a Javen Buchanan at 6'7", even like a Pearson Carmichael. They've earned his redshirt a couple of games ago. He's a 6'7" wing. Chris Lockett's a 6'5" guard. Keen's like 6'3", 6'4". So they've got some size at the guard position. They don't have a 6'9" guard or anything like that, but I think they feel like they match up okay.
I'm going to throw it over to my co-host, Mr. Ed Nunez.
Yeah, BJ, after losing a tough game against Utah State last Saturday, Boise State is coming off a good win on Tuesday against Wyoming, in which 4 Broncos were in double figures. What's the mood of the team tonight as they come to the pit?
Oh, I think they feel pretty good. I mean, I know they lost that Utah State game, but they think they did a lot of things good in that game. And if you go back to the game before that against UNLV, I mean, that's 3 games where the offense has really been clicking. And that's 3 games overall where they played, really well. They just, defensively in the second half couldn't make enough stops against Utah State. And Utah State hit some crazy shots, and Spectrum Magic kind of willed them to a win. So I think overall they feel like they're kind of ascending. They've made 27 3-pointers in the last 2 games, season best over a 2-game period. They really, really played well against Wyoming in their last game. So I think they're coming in with a ton of confidence. They've, played well here in the past. They won here last year. So I think they feel pretty good. I think they're 7-2 in their last 9 games against New Mexico overall. So they come in with a ton of confidence. They're 2-1 in their last 3 games, but overall, I think they just think these last 3 games have been the team that they thought they could become this year. So they're trending in an upward trajectory right now. And I think they feel pretty good coming into tonight.
Brian Dutcher talks about Donovan Dent and Nelly Jr. Joseph being a 2-man. The way they work the 2-man pick and roll. We've seen different kind of defensive coverages on Donovan Dent. What defensive game plan do you see Boise State trying to implement tonight on Donovan Dent?
Well, I mean, they just want to keep him from getting to the rim as easily as he can sometimes. I mean, last year down here at the pit, I think Dent had 30 points or something, and it was like he just got to the rim in the second half pretty much whenever he wanted to. So they've got to do a better job of trying to keep him from just, blowing by his defender at the top of the key and getting to the rim. But they also don't want to let him kind of get a lot of assists. It's kind of a give and take type thing. I mean, if Dent gets his 20, but he only has, 1 or 2 assists, and they're probably in pretty good shape. But if he's got, 15, but he has, 8 or 9 assists, and that's not a good thing. So I think they obviously don't want to give him easy baskets, easy, trips down the lane to the basket and let him get to the foul line. But they also don't want to, put all their focus on him and then let him create for other guys, on the wing and things like that. I mean, I know they haven't shot the 3-pointer, very well this year, New Mexico, that is. So I'm sure that's something Boise State will try to make them prove that they can do. And but they obviously know that Dent's, a premier player in this league, player of the year candidate. And so they know they're going to have their hands full for sure.
Speaking of player of the year candidates, Tyson Degenhart was picked preseason Mountain West Conference player of the year. He's averaged 17. It's very Degenhart numbers, 17.7 points, almost 6 rebounds, almost 2 assists. What kind of game does he need tonight for Boise State to come in here and shock the Lobos in the pit back-to-back years?
Well, the big thing I think is the outside shot. I mean, he's averaging 17.7, but he really, up until 3 or 4 games ago, hasn't played great. I mean, he's kind of turned it on of late, and he's a senior. And I think the last couple of games he's played much better. I mean, his teams were kind of leaving him wide open because he just was really struggling from the outside. He's still only shooting 30% from 3, but I think that number was like 20% going into the last couple of games. He was 5 of 7, I think, against Utah State and a couple the other day. So his shooting has gotten better, and they've been saying all along that he's a better shooter than teams have seen. And so I think if the 3-point shot can continue to fall and he can hit the outside shot, I think that's going to be obviously a big thing for him. But he's, an all-around player, a guy that can score at the rim and can do some things. And he's had some big games against New Mexico and, particularly a couple of big games at the pit, the one that went to overtime a couple of years ago. So I think he, as a senior, has certainly led this team, but I think it's his outside shooting the last couple of games that has really helped take his overall game to the next level.
That's right. He hit that game-tying 3. Back to Ed.
What improvements did you see from Boise State's defense versus Wyoming, and how do you think they will defend Donovan Dent in the pick and roll?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously going to be a key. I mean, I hate to say it, I'm not making excuses or whatever, but I mean, Utah State hit some crazy shots. I mean, that shot that Martinez hit at the end of the game, the 4-point play, literally hit the rim 7 times before it bounced in. So, I mean, could they have played better defensively? Yes, but there was 3 or 4 just kind of heaves at the end of the shot clock that went in. I mean, Utah State just had a night to remember and just got some crazy bounces. And sometimes it's just the way that the game works, especially at home in front of that crowd. So I think rebounding is big, not giving them the easy buckets. I mean, at times they're going to hit some crazy shots. And if that's the case, you can't give them the easy plays. I think it was just, against Utah State, there was just some miscommunications, and you'd occasionally get a backdoor or something for an easy layup. And against Wyoming, they just didn't give nearly as many open looks and just didn't give any kind of just, easy trips to the basket where there's kind of a communication breakdown or something. So I think they have to have all 5 guys on the floor on the same page and, really just try to lock in defensively. And if New Mexico is going to hit some shot, tough shots, you make them earn it. So I think that's just a big key tonight.
I know you've posted about you talked to us about it in Vegas in October in regards to venues. You've tweeted about it. Where does the Pit rank for you in a lot of the Mountain West Conference venues? Even Spectrum, Viejas.
I mean, Spectrum is at Utah State's just a different kind of loud because their students are doing more chants and cheers and stuff, and maybe it's the fact that they have the students literally standing right behind the media too that just makes it seem extra loud. But sometimes they're saying vile stuff and. They go a little too far sometimes for me, but in terms of just the history, the tradition, the overall loudness, the thing I love about the Pit is it'll be, 12-8 with, 13:30 left in the first half, and Omar Stanley will get a rebound and Boise State will have the ball and the place just starts going crazy for the entire defensive possession. Just the fans just know their ball and know when it's time to make some noise, and they don't need the PA announcer to tell them to get loud or the scoreboard to start cheering up there. They just kind of know what they're doing, and they are they're a really good, knowledgeable fan base, and they just get loud, and the way that the just all kind of funnels down to the court with the lighting and everything. It's just I just love the history and tradition of it. Seeing Snake when you walk in, and just all the traditions and things, and Michael Buffer firing up the crowd before tip off. I mean, it's all just a fun it's a fun atmosphere, and it's a great one of the great venues in college basketball, and I've seen Boise State win a couple in here, so at times they've quieted the crowd, but for the most part this place is usually rocking, and was just at the Spectrum in Logan last Saturday, and now 6 days later here, and excited to see what they can bring tonight.
He is host and publisher of Bronco Nation News. His name's Mr. BJ Rains. BJ, thank you so much for taking time out of your day tonight. Enjoy the multi-cast pregame show with Jeff Graham tonight. Thanks for your time again. Enjoy the game. Yeah, looking forward to that. We worked it out with Jeff in the Albuquerque Journal, and 8 o'clock tonight we'll be live on YouTube and Facebook and X with kind of a joint simulcast pregame show with Jeff and myself, and looking forward to that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Love coming to Albuquerque. I think I was counting this as probably my 8th or 9th trip, counting football and basketball over the years. I think maybe 10th time. So, one of those teams that I hate actually that's leaving the conference, and it's just weird that this is, maybe next year's going to be the last time coming down here. So love this place, and hope they still schedule some non-conference games with Boise State and the teams in the league here. And looking forward to it tonight. Appreciate you guys for having me. Appreciate you. I'll see you tonight. Have a good one.
Yep. Take care, guys.
BJ Rains from Bronco Nation News. Quick break, and we will wrap up the show. Give our thoughts on the Boise State game tonight.
I dropped the top on the 6th Street. Fly in my ops, see the envy me. Passing it off like CP3. Shawty, she calling me MVP. I be on time, it's something you ain't never seen before. They call me the Dama. Really want my whole team to score. Damn, yeah, too icy. Yeah, too clean. Yeah, my zone. Yeah, 2-3. Yeah, got shooters that hit from deep. Bust like Giannis. Yeah, too mean. Bright lights like we at the garden. On PD, don't get me started. Whole team walk through me to party. If I can't make the play, I'ma lob it. If you jump, that's right on your head. Had to put him to sleep, go to bed. I'm a star, drop 50 and left. From the logo, like I'm Steph. Put it up, knock him down every time. Going hard like my life on the line. Catch me on the course, I would've done. real when it comes to the playoffs. You fight with me, know it's a KO.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori, joined by Ed Nunez, voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs and a Lobo fan since 1970. Much thanks to former Lobo Philip McDonald and BJ Rains from Bronco Nation News. Ed, what'd you think of Phil?
You know what? I think when I was looking at what he had done here and going over the career that he had and the teams that he was on, I got to tell you that he mentioned too the rosters that Coach Alford put together, the guards, the forwards, they could hurt you from the guard position, the wing, inside. I think we've sold. I know I have. I've probably sold Coach Alford's teams short, and I shouldn't have, because he had success here, and you heard what he said about what kind of coach he was. And so, yeah. I mean, when you think about it, and look, Norm Ellenberger has his place in Lobo history. I get that, and he was a great coach. But I think we have to. For me, Bob King, the architect of Lobo basketball. But I think I have to look at it and say that Steve Alford was probably the best coach we ever had here. And you never know, man. I mean, you never know. I think he realizes how good he had it here. I'm not saying he'd ever come back, but I think he would want to come back if that opportunity ever arose. And you never know. I don't think it ever will. But I think that's one of the things. And Phil, you know what, Ryan? The guy had to come off the bench as a senior after he had started, and he accepted his role. He's a pro. He's a teammate, a great teammate. Just did what was asked of him. A lot of guys would pout and be a problem on the bench. I know body language. I've coached. You see guys on the end of the bench, they're not starting. They've got their head down, and they're scrunching in their chair. He didn't do any of that. That guy's a pro's pro. Just did whatever Steve Alford asked. So I was really impressed with him. I really was. And it reminded me of how solid he was and how solid those teams were. God, those were some good teams, man. They really were. And, they came up short against Washington that year and then short against Harvard after Charles Barkley had predicted the Final Four. So, those are some really good teams. And I don't know that Richard Pitino, who's got some good teams, I don't think they've as far as the overall roster, has he reached some of the teams that Steve Alford has? No, he's not. And I'm not downgrading Coach Pitino at all. If they keep JT Toppin here and, he went to Texas Tech, how good would this Lobo team be? They'd be on another tier. And, he left and he got the money, and good for him. But those teams that Steve Alford had, take a look. Man, they were really good. And Philip McDonald, a great guest. And, you getting BJ Rains was a great get there too. Great job in doing that. Great job.
I'm going to go to some of the comments. God help me. I do like this one, though. Hey, Jimmy H., I'm giving you kudos. Rice will piss his pants tonight. Oh, man, I liked that one. Eric Markham, I hope the Lobos play like they did against UCLA tonight. It would be great if we had good shooting game, right? Jesus. Let's go, Lobos. Yeah, not fair to Rick. Not fair to compare pre and post NIL era. I got to go to my main man,
Miguel Sanchez.
I doubt that the high trap with Nelly will work against BSU. Rice roasted that trap the last 2 seasons. Are you referring to Max Rice because he no longer plays on the team? I didn't throw this out there to Lobo fans. How excited are you not to see Max Rice on the court tonight? He was a kid. He killed him last year. That was another game I didn't watch. I went to bed. Oh, you know what I wanted to say, Ed? And I went to the comments very quickly. I thought it was phenomenal that Phil took a lesser role. I thought that was pretty awesome.
You know what it was, and Rick's right. You can't compare post and pre. He's right about that. But still, you look back on it and you think, man, these are some good teams that Alford had, and Coach Pitino's doing the best job he can in today's college landscape. It's a changing landscape every day. But yeah, back to Philip. Yeah, he did. Think about that. You started for 3 seasons. Well, he didn't start as a freshman, but he had an impact 3 seasons, and all of a sudden, when he's hurt, Tony Snell, who played in the NBA for 10 seasons, almost had his pension, but was a year short or half year short of getting his NBA pension. that guy went to the NBA and you played behind, you were Snell was behind you, and then when you got hurt, he took your job. That's how good he was. But instead of pouting and saying, again, he shrugging his shoulders or having an attitude, he embraced it and was a Lobo and still contributed.
Any predictions for the game tonight?
Somebody mentioned on one of the comments I read that New Mexico is angry, and I think Donovan Dent got on the plane, and they said he's not a vocal leader. And I read this morning that Dent said, "We're okay, guys. We're okay. You know what? We lost one. So did Utah State. We're good." And they said Borovichinen said he was a little surprised because Donovan Dent doesn't really say, he's not a vocal leader, but he got on, he made it a point to tell everybody that. And Borovichinen, I think I made everybody feel like, hey, we're good. They've got to win tonight. We mentioned about protecting home court. I'll take New Mexico 79-76, a close one. So, I think New Mexico answers the bell tonight after a tough loss against San Jose State. And they've got – and, BJ Raines made a good point about the pit. The guy will get the rebound and the Lobo fans will stand and yell. And he's right. I take those things for granted. You don't have to have the PA announcer Dylan Storm yelling and saying, "Let's get going, Lobo fans." You don't have to do that. They do it on their own. And he made some really good points from an outside observation. I'm there all the time. I see these things all the time, and I take it for granted. So I think tonight Lobo fans will be at full throat like they were last week against San Diego State, and Lobos get the job done.
I didn't mention San Diego State game, and I'm going to apologize to people. And I showed Mackenzie Bishop from 505 and Abrazo Holmes. I'm a big, I'm a big Tony Gwynn guy, and everybody's gonna make fun of me for that. Gnat flying around my house. I'm a big Tony Gwynn guy, and I wear hats sporadically, and I have a ton around my house, and I just wear one just because I feel like it. This isn't a Lobo hat. This is a 47 New Jersey Devils hat. And I had one of my San Diego Padres hats, and I threw it on Saturday morning. My mom and my son and I decided to go to breakfast. So we met at the Frontier, and I threw my Padres hat on walking out of the house. And my mom looked at me and was like, "What the hell are you wearing?" So I got kudos to that. I didn't do it on purpose. I really didn't. I've got a couple San Diego Padres hat, but the listeners here have to understand, because I get shit all the time. Tony Gwynn is my favorite baseball player. So don't hate on me for that. I saw him hit a walk-off home run as like 7 or 8 years old. But kudos to the Pit on Saturday. I took a video of it when they were chanting "Go Lobos" about midway through the second half. And there's just certain times where everybody says I hate on New Mexico, and I diss a lot, man. I just call it as I sees it, and I'm not trying to be edgy. But when you get games like that, and I'm hoping it's tonight, this is from the bottom of my heart. It's such a hard place to play. And when you're on the floor like that, I can't imagine being an opposing player. It's rough, man. I hope there's the same energy tonight, because I think they need it. One loss shouldn't kill it. I think it's another bad loss. But I have a lot of respect for Tim Miles and a couple of those players on that team. San Jose State, Josu Deji, Will McClendon. I mean, he came from UCLA. Josu Deji was on the Mountain West Conference champions last year. He's a role player guy. He's a veteran. They know what they're doing. I just love the energy. Sorry, Eric sent me a text message. Oh, here we go. Here's some football news, and I get to use this thing. We're going to talk about this very quickly. New Mexico football, they have added the Conference USA Freshman of the Year. DJ McKinney to the Lobo family. DJ was named Conference USA Freshman of the Year, leading all Conference USA freshmen with 479 yards and 3 TDs. He also hauled in 11 passes for 79 yards. So you've got a offensive lineman as your head coach who said we're going to run the ball, and you get a pretty darn good running back that was Conference USA Freshman of the Year. Ed, when you see this news, what do you think?
You know what? I've liked what they've added as far as the offensive linemen that have coming in. And, they lost Jacobs, they lost Sanders, they lost their running back room. And this is a good add. I've liked what I've seen so far as the recruits that, every day. What did he add? 8 the other day. And so, yes, I'm very excited about it. This, freshman of the year, 479 yards. Yeah, that's going to be a good addition. And you mentioned you interviewed Coach Eck. He likes to pound the rock, man, and this is going to be a good addition to the Lobo backfield for sure.
He hails from Sam Houston State, who had a really good football season. They've made the transition to D1. I think they made a bowl game, and if you don't know where Sam Houston is, it's in Huntsville, outside of Houston. I'm going to go to ESPN again. This is where I hate hosting the show. I just don't know these things off the top of my head. 10-3, and they won. That's right. They beat Liberty. They beat Georgia Southern in the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl, 31-26. Looked like a good game. It was one of the few games I didn't catch. So he comes from a 10-3 team, moves up a little bit. I think that's a really good get. So good for them. Alfred is overrated. That's only because he left. Ed says it all the time on the show. 30-5 seasons don't grow on trees. Who's the last coach that advanced in the NCAA tournament?
That was kind of the knock on him a little bit about,
it is.
That's the knock on him. And I can understand that, but I think was a pretty darn good coach here. And I mentioned the other coaches that were here, Bob King, the architect, Norm Ellenberger. There were some really good coaches here. You got to say Dave Bliss had success here. He did. What he did later makes me still sick to my stomach, but he had some NCAA success here. Took the Lobos to the tournament, but no one has gotten past that, to the Sweet 16. So
please embrace us with your knowledge, Jimmy H. What Dave Bliss? I think Kenny. I know obviously Kenny got to the tournament 4 years in a row. I think they advanced every year in the tournament.
They did until the second. In the second round.
I know they didn't get to the Sweet 16, but they got, to the second round. What is it? Butler. Round of 32, 96, 97, 98, 99. Yeah, I mean that's impressive. I'm not knocking that at all. I still think for my age, and I'm weighing this for a guy who loves history. I'm really about what have you done for me lately, for the guy that just said he loves history. And what you did, Eric, I'm gonna go to that comment here very quickly. Personal interactions when I had media passes. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. All right.
He might be talking about Coach Alford. That I don't know.
I like Coach Alford. If you're ripping on me, then you're free to do that. Make fun of me.
Real quick though, just real quick. I think when he was here, at least I know some people that from Indiana that they went up to him and they thought they had some commonality with him, and he wouldn't even look up from his phone. According to what I heard from some people, he was a little bit arrogant. But I think I say that I've changed my mind a little bit, because when you said you saw him at the Mountain West Conference media day, he sat down right away. He's like, "Where do I sit?" And I think I've seen a little bit different Steve Alford since he got humbled at UCLA. He still took him to 2 Sweet 16s, So but they expect the championships there. They fired Ben Howland after taking them to 2 Final Fours, and so I think he got a little bit humbled, and I think he understood how good he had it here. But as a person, for some, that was my only knock on him, is that I thought he was. And then Craig Neal, that's a whole different matter. Together, they're a good team. I can't sit there and say as a coaching duo they weren't good, because in the timeout, Coach Alford gives the board to Neal. He's drawing up defenses. Now Neal, the head coach, was terrible. He was very upset when Cullen Neal got run out of here and ran the Lobo fans down, and he didn't want to be here. So okay, that's a whole different matter. But I think Coach Alford has softened his stance, and that is, to me anyway, is not as arrogant as I used to perceive him. And I thought he was a very arrogant man when he was here, but he won. I understand that there's going to be other people saying he won games. What's the problem? He can act whichever way he wants. But I know he put some people off by the way he did act. But like I said, for me, I think he's softened, and it's changed a little bit. The way he talked to you. He talked to you like he's known you for years. He really likes you. And I think you interviewed him a year ago, and he gave you all access, man. So I kind of changed my mind a little bit about his attitude. But when he was here, maybe he made Jimmy H mad. I'm not sure.
Jim Rome used to talk about, and I would use the Jim Rome reference. Man, he lit Alfred a new one when he left UNM for UCLA. He ripped him. And that was one of the. There were many, I think, national media pundits that did it. I think you go back and look at Bill Plaschke. I think he was. Don't quote me on this. I think he wasn't happy that they had hired him. Again, Ben Hallen got him to a title game and a Final Four, and you get canned. Jimmy H, this is true. I can't tell you remember what I did 5 minutes ago, but I would squash your ass in sports trivia. It wouldn't even be close. And when do I come on here and really tout against our listeners? I'm not good at a lot of things. I'd wipe the floor with you on Madden, on NCAA football. Like those are very important things in life. And it wouldn't even be close in sports trivia. And I can see you typing right now.
That's funny.
I would kick.
That's funny, man.
If Rick and Eric are watching, and I know Eric's going to be pissed, I would kick your fucking ass in sports trivia. Oh, and not in Lobo trivia? Nah, I'd probably kick your ass in Lobo trivia too.
Well, maybe we could set up a Lobo trivia question, right? Let's set one up from the past, and I don't know. Maybe a listener can come up with a question.
Fake Donald Trump's not harassing us on Twitter tonight. Hey, everybody enjoy the game tonight. And again, Jimmy H, I'm not confident in a lot of things. I have to pick and choose. Lobo trivia, sports trivia, yes. You want to talk about the war in the Pacific? I got you covered. Yeah, all right, whatever. I bet you're not much younger than I. I'm going to take a shot on there. Ed, I hope you enjoy the game tonight. Hopefully, we won't be back on Monday with the game at 3:00. Inauguration Day and MLK Day, and there are basketball games set up all day. Lobos landed a 3:00 game, on FS1? So they play Fresno State. Games on FS1 tonight. I want to make sure I have that right for Monday.
I think it is 3:00. I don't know. Was that on FS1? I didn't know
that. Tonight's FS1. They play UNLV on Fox, on Big Boy Fox, on January 25th in Vegas. CBS Sports Network. I was wrong. All right, Ed, enjoy the game tonight. We will be back on, I guess, Wednesday. That's what I was trying to say. Don't do anything I would do. Ed, as always, thank you for joining us on the show. Absolutely. Everybody enjoy the game. Have a good weekend.